Have you ever thought about why the person who appears to exert the least effort is the one who draws the most attention, while you, who invest everything, compose the ideal message, are considerate, friendly, and accessible at any time, find yourself alone, staring at your phone screen, waiting for a response that never arrives? The sensation you experienced upon hearing that question, that slight jolt in your chest, that unease you're unsure is either shame or acknowledgement, is precisely the indicator that what I'm going to share with you today resonates with you personally. And even if you believe it doesn't concern you, remain here because what I'm about to disclose extends far beyond just relationships. It relates to your true self when no one is observing. We exist within a story developed over many years, shaped by films, music, television programs, and guidance from well-intentioned individuals with mistaken beliefs. The story unfolds like this. Be caring, be considerate, express your emotions, put the one you cherish first, demonstrate your need for them, and love will flourish effortlessly. It seems lovely. The issue is that the narrative has ruined countless generations of men who adhered strictly to each of those steps and found themselves puzzled, embarrassed, and isolated, with no clarity on what had gone awry. This is the section that a lot of individuals find difficult to embrace. It didn't fail due to your inadequacy. It went awry because no one ever clarified to you how human attraction truly functions. No one revealed the truth to you. And the truth, as usual, is much more intricate, much more fascinating, and much more freeing than any pleasant falsehood. Today we'll discuss psychology, biology, and philosophy. We will discuss a man called Arthur Schopenhauer, who existed in the 19th century and expressed ideas about human nature that were so unsettling that his peers chose to overlook him for many years. A man who never maintained a steady romantic relationship, lived with his dog, and who, ironically, grasped something about desire and attraction that many contemporary psychologists still hesitate to articulate. However, prior to discussing Schopenhauer, I need you to reflect on something for a moment. I require you to be truthful with yourself, as what I'm going to ask is central to everything that comes next. How often have you altered aspects of yourself to gain someone's approval? How often have you agreed when you actually wanted to decline? How often have you turned down an aspect of your character, your views, your passion because you think that would make you more lovable? How many times have you structured your whole day based on whether that person has responded to you? If the response to any of those inquiries is greater, more than once, then what I will share with you today has the potential to alter something essential within you, not in your flirting style, but in your overall existence in the world. There's an idea I want you to remember during this whole video. It's referred to as the center. It isn't a complex philosophical concept or psychological nuance. You instantly identify it in specific individuals as soon as you come across them. Some men enter a room, and there's an aspect of them that appears grounded. They don't concern themselves with whether others approve of them. They don't glance around for validation. They maintain their posture and language regardless of who is observing. They simply exist, entirely present, wholly in their own selves. And that, with no one able to entirely clarify it logically, is alluring. And there are other men who enter that same space, and even if they're more attractive, even if they dress more stylishly, even if they say everything perfectly, something about them appears to be looking for something external. They're observing how others respond. They require someone to assure them that they're all right. Their energy isn't sourced from within. It spreads outward seeking approval. And that, although no one openly expresses it, creates a sense of dullness. That distinction, which appears minor yet is completely critical, is what Schopenhauer sought to articulate through his notion of the will. And it's what contemporary psychology refers to, using different terms, precisely the same concept. Allow me to share something with you regarding. Schopenhauer must be mentioned before we proceed, as his life experience serves as a valuable lesson in practical psychology. He was born in 1788 in Gdansk, in present-day Poland. His father was a prosperous trader, and his mother, Johanna Schopenhauer, was a talented, independent author who, after her husband's passing, emerged as a prominent literary figure in Germany. The bond between mother and son was, to phrase it kindly, a catastrophe. Johanna once penned a letter to her son stating, more or less, that he was difficult to manage and that his presence felt like a weight. Arthur was 17 years old when he got something similar from his own mother. That doesn't clarify everything, but it accounts for part of the perspective through which Schopenhauer subsequently viewed human connections. A lens that sought no comfort, a perspective that sought truth, even when that truth was painful. The truth he discovered, after years of exploring Eastern philosophy, basic biology, instinct psychology, and his personal experiences of relational shortcomings, was this: people do not make choices based on reason. They think their choices are based on logic. They build logical reasons to support their decisions. Yet beneath the surface, they're influenced by something much older, much more potent, and entirely alien too. Conscious thought, that he referred to it as the will, an instinctive drive devoid of ethical intention that functions subconsciously and guides human actions towards reproduction, survival, and species perpetuation, disregarding consent, ignoring your beliefs, and showing no concern for what you desire. Now, there's something I need you to pay close attention to, as it's one of the key moments in this video. Schopenhauer didn't claim that humans are just irrational creatures, and that's the end of it. He was expressing something much more subtle and unsettling. Our reasoning, that ability we cherish so much, frequently does not guide our choices. Rather, it legitimizes them once they have already occurred through processes we are not even conscious of. In a way, we tell the stories of choices made prior to our ability to consider them. Contemporary psychology, 150 years later, reached astonishingly similar findings. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio showed that patients with damage to the brain's emotional area, yet preserved reasoning, were unable to make decisions. They were capable of analyzing any situation flawlessly, yet they were unable to decide, since making a choice ultimately necessitates emotion. It demands that irrational drive, which Schopenhauer referred to as will and which neuroscience identifies as the limbic system. How is any of this relevant to relationships? All things. Totally everything. When a man formulates his strategy of pursuit solely based on logic, when he carefully crafts the perfect message, when he builds the ideal romantic setting, when he attempts to persuade someone that he is worthy of love through reasoning and displays of affection, he is addressing the incorrect system. He is addressing another individual's logical reasoning, whereas attraction functions on a distinct level, deeper, quicker, and well beyond the grasp of reasoned debate. Attraction remains unyielding. Attraction is experienced, or it isn't. And what creates it is not your words, but what you convey. What you convey is not a deliberate choice. It reflects the essence of your being in every moment. Let's reflect together on something you may have noticed in your own experience, even if you haven't labeled it. Consider someone you know, a man who appears to have every obstacle stacked against him based on the romantic narrative we've all been taught. He isn't the most observant. He doesn't send messages saying good morning daily. He doesn't monitor the feelings of people nearby. He can sometimes be challenging to manage. He possesses his own interests, routines, and endeavors to which he commits genuine time and effort. He doesn't modify his life to conform to another's, yet he draws people in. Effortlessly, without a clear plan, he creates the allure that individuals seek and often struggle to articulate. In comparison, consider an individual who adheres strictly to the guidelines, who is perpetually accessible, who replies in mere seconds, who alters his emotions to align with others, who abandons his commitments upon request, who expresses what he believes others wish to hear, who conspicuously seeks validation, even if he attempts to conceal it in order to be selected. The distinction between these two men isn't in the level of affection they experience. The second one likely experiences more. The distinction exists in what psychology refers to as an internal locus of control, the origin of their sense of security and identity, from where it arises. The first man possesses his inner center, his self-esteem, sense of purpose, and personal value are independent of others' validation. It is present before anyone observes him. It continues even if nobody selects him. The second individual possesses his center externally. His emotional health is influenced by the reactions of others. If they respond, he's okay. If they fail to do so, the world falls apart. If they approve of him, that's sufficient. If they do not, a part of him begins to question what is amiss. And here lies the most intriguing and harsh irony of it all. The greater your need to be selected, the less appealing you appear. The more you seek independence, the more you attract validation. Not due to apathy, but because that emotional autonomy, that feeling that your life holds worth regardless of others' approval, is exactly what fosters trust in those around you. Schopenhauer perceived this through a philosophical lens. What he referred to as denying the will, the ability to remain unchained by the urge to own, by reliance on the outside, represented for him the sole genuine manifestation of freedom. Ironically, that freedom, that profound disregard for ownership, is more appealing than any display of want. However, exercise caution, as there exists a significant pitfall that numerous men encounter during their initial experience. Now listen to this. Displayed indifference is ineffective. Measured chilliness is ineffective. Playing hard to get, deliberately ignoring someone, employing silence as a manipulative strategy, all of this is equally desperate and just as reliant on external validation as the contrary extreme. Merely in the reverse direction. Your actions are still influenced by how you believe others will view you. It's still outside. What truly creates genuine attraction is not apathy. It's the genuine presence of a person who requires nothing from you to feel whole. That difference is faint, yet entirely essential. Moreover, much of the material regarding this topic overlooks it completely or intentionally obscures it, as marketing a guide of methods is more lucrative than advocating for true interchange. I would like to discuss a point Schopenhauer made in one of his most provocative essays, a piece his editors attempted to moderate, which created an uproar among his peers. A writing regarding the essence of women's desire that, when removed from 19th century phrasing and analyzed through modern psychology, reveals aspects deserving of sincere exploration. Schopenhauer contended that a woman, influenced by the will he outlined, selects not based on aesthetic or romantic standards, but rather on factors of strength, stability, music, and ability to survive. Not strictly in physical aspects, but regarding personality. According to him, what she seeks in every man she thinks about is a response to a question she never explicitly articulates. Does this man possess enough within himself to feel all right in the world? If the response she senses, not the one she listens to, but the one she interprets through body language, energy, and demeanor, indicates that this man requires someone to support his emotional stability, a part of her, something functioning beyond logical reasoning, recognizes it as a cautionary sign. Not due to her cruelty, not from a lack of concern, but because that primal instinct interprets a code that has existed for millions of years, a code indicating that an organism which always requires external validation is one that is not fully stable. Instability, from an evolutionary perspective, indicates a potential threat. At this point, it is essential to note that Schopenhauer overgeneralized. He attributed behavioral patterns to the whole female population that illustrate statistical trends, not definitive realities. Individuals are incredibly diverse. Some women pursue emotional dependency as it gives them a sense of being needed. Some women avoid emotional strength because they perceive it as threatening. Some relationships operate in ways that differ significantly from what I've outlined here. Yet the main pattern, the essence of Schopenhauer's observations, and what current evolutionary psychology verifies, is genuine. Emotional resilience, a sense of personal meaning, and an identity rooted in something beyond seeking others' validation. These elements create allure, not in everyone or in all situations, but they do so with a regularity that is hard to overlook. What is particularly intriguing is that this pattern extends beyond just romantic attraction. It pertains to nearly every significant human connection. The individuals we hold in the highest regard, those we deeply admire and wish to associate with, are often those who require too much from us to feel fulfilled, who have their own path, who do not rely on our views to understand their identity. I want to discuss how the perception of emotional need truly operates, as I believe there is a significant misconception about this issue that leads to considerable harm. Expressing emotions is different from seeking approval. Being open is not equivalent to being reliant. There is a key distinction between sharing your feelings because you genuinely need to express them and sharing them because you require reassurance from that person, wanting them to comfort you, affirm their love, and assure you that you won't lose them. The initial aspect is emotional maturity. The second is fear disguised as an emotion. The emotionally resilient man is not the one who lacks feelings. He experiences emotions with full intensity, yet doesn't require anyone else to handle those feelings on his behalf. He is the person who can express "I love you" without expecting a response in return. He is the person who can dissent without becoming anxious, who can confront the unpredictability of a relationship without crumbling. What draws people in is not toughness or being difficult to reach, but emotional reliability, the assurance that he will manage regardless of circumstances, that he isn't dependent on me for his well-being, but he selects me, and that selection arises from a mindset of plenty, not lack. Schopenhauer employed a metaphor that I find especially disconcerting. He mentioned that longing resembles the swinging of a clock's pendulum. It oscillates between the agony of absence and the monotony of possession, between desire and fulfillment. Most humans' suffering stems from that pendulum, from the ongoing back and forth between desiring something and attaining it, only to realize you don't want it as much anymore. How is that relevant to our conversation? Reflect on it for a moment. When a man is fully present, when he aligns his whole self with another's timetable and requirements, when he gives up his own space to consistently be available, what he unwittingly accomplishes is the reduction of stress. And without strain, without that pendulum swaying softly, longing turns shadowed, not due to anyone's malice, but because of emotional dynamics. Longing requires room. It requires the other individual to be a universe you haven't completely charted, an enigma worth delving into, someone with their own life, complete and whole, who existed prior to you and will persist with or without you. When you merge with the other person, when you relinquish your enigma, your personal path, your core, you likewise remove that distance. And by doing so, you remove the chance of desire continuing to exist. This seems harsh, understand. It seems like you must act indifferent or create a facade of strategic detachment to keep someone's interest, but that's not my point. It's precisely the contrary. This isn't about acting as if you possess your own life. It's related to possessing one. It's not about pretending that you don't need anyone. It's Abu.